Signalis starts very subtly, without a word being said. The only thing you hear is the buzzing of lights and electrical equipment in your ship, which you share with your human pilot named Ariane. However, she's nowhere to be found as you realize the ship has crashed on an icy planet. The ship's controls are lost beyond any hope of repair, but you have to find your Gestalt officer. So you take a photo strapped to the landing controls of the ship. And exit it to find her. As you stand on top of your ship, you notice a gate-like structure made of black rock in the distance, decorated with other black rocky structures sticking out of the planet. Passing that gate, you come across a hole in the ground with stairs leading you down. You descend and notice another hole, seemingly dug up by a shovel. You crawl through it and keep going deeper until you come across a room with a computer sitting on the table, hooked up to a set of radio equipment. There's also a sealed dome sitting just below the light glowing above. It's called The King in Yellow, and you have to pick it up to progress further from this room. Chapter 1: Perceptions. Everyone has their own perception of art that they encounter, and I have mine. However, many videos I've seen about Signalis explore the King in Yellow and what the game is attempting to describe, rather than what it actually means to them personally. I appreciate the silence of Signalis. It allows my mind to fill in the blanks with my interpretation of this world. Having played Silent Hill 2, from which this game draws inspiration, I see many similarities. For starters, James Sunderland and Elster both share a guilt and a goal to be in the stream. Elster is determined to complete her job, regardless of the cost. She has come all this way to find her and cannot turn back now. It is challenging to discern which parts of this game are reality and which are just Elster living out a memory in her head. I doubt that our Elster is real. This game manipulates you more than you play it, and I have chosen to rebel against this perceived meaninglessness and futility by imposing my own interpretation onto it. To me, Signalis is about addiction, not just to escapism in substances, but in people and memories. This game doesn't overtly suggest that it is about addiction, but I don't know what else you would call the obsessions some of us showcase regarding certain people. It is that one happy memory that you lose and continue to recall because it was so joyful. Yet, instead of moving on, you insist on clinging on to the past, perhaps because that memory represents something that you may never have again, even though it could be detrimental to everyone involved. To clarify, this is my perception. Others have theorized that the game may resemble the 9 layers of hell, and I might consider that interpretation, but only after expressing my own. I understand that this view may draw criticism, since it is essentially my personal issues projected onto this art, but it is mine. I am not creating this video to educate anyone. I wanted to provide a glimpse into my mind and how a very mentally ill person perceives this art. This video is meant to document my feelings about this game and serve as a place I can revisit. Once I publish this, I will feel free to explore the theories and ideas others have about Signalis without fearing I will forget what it initially meant to me. Chapter 2: The Situation. I am going to spoil Signalis now. If you haven't played the game and wish to, you definitely should. But if you're not interested, well, I'll tell you everything in as few words as possible. The setting of Signalis is in an oppressive, military fascist regime of the nation of Yushan, which is at war with the monarchist faction, the Empire of Yushan. Most of the game's story takes place in the facility of S-23 Sherbinsky, where you suddenly appear after picking up the King in Yellow. It is never explained how Elster gets there, setting you out on the quest for an explanation. You encounter a few zombified replicas and a bleeding star unit who tells you that the lady in the picture, now Alina Seo, is probably in the mines. Taking her word for it, you set out in search for her. You will also meet a human, Izaito, who is searching for her sister. After obtaining the key, you enter the classroom, where the floor itself seems to bleed, and you jump down to the next level. If the metaphor escapes you, I'm not sure what else to say. This floor is filled with more zombified replicas who will reanimate after you leave them to die. The only way to rid yourself of them is to burn them. However, you will also find another storage unit who will inform you that the entire facility has fallen ill and that most humans have died, leaving only replicas who wander the lonely halls, corrupted, even distorting reality around them when they are lifeless. She refuses to say more for fear of decommissioning. Your main objective in the workers' quarters is to find a protector identity card to operate the elevator that leads to the mines. To get this card, you need a radio module, which you will obtain after opening a butterfly box belonging to Alina. This box contains the Eternity Plate, which won't be usable for a while, but teleports you to the home of Ariane's mother. There, you will notice a shelf full of Imperial cereals, the same radio equipment as the room at the beginning, and a letter from Ariane's aunt, inviting her to Rothfron Sector C for further education. You pick up the radio module, conveniently located near the radio station, and equip it. You must tune it to 160 Hz to open the door below the radio tower. The radio module enables you to open the wall safes around the facility, containing crucial items for progression. You will also come across a torture chamber, where you will find a paper with frequencies corresponding to subsequent wall safe symbols. The tree safe contains the identification card, which you take and attempt to use to go to the mines. However, your card is revoked midway and you are ejected at the third floor or the hospital wing. This floor isn't as interesting since there are barely any characters to meet. Among the few you will encounter is an EUL unit hiding in a protector office. She expresses her fear of death and concern about turning like everyone else, noting that it started with the Falke unit and then it spread. She also feels she has met Elster before. The main objective on this floor is to open a door that requires 5 key cards. These cards are scattered behind minor puzzles, but one needing to be crafted from a blank key card. However, one card lies within a memory, underscoring the unreality of Sherpinski. In the memory, you're on a train, with Ariane sitting at the end. You have no choice but to approach her, but as you do, the light flickers and she disappears. You can pick up the key left where Ariane sat. But this scene broke me a little. She does not even say a word. I don't even know why I'm looking for her, but she was so close. Maybe it's just that the more that I can't have someone, the more that I want them. Or maybe it's just my empathy towards Elster going crazy. Using the 5 keys to open the door, you find a room with a broken barrier overlooking the room below. Dropping down, you encounter the miner unit, a strong replica used for mining and nuclear waste disposal. She can kill you very quick, especially if you're not prepared for the effort and firepower it takes to take her down, without a flare gun, that is. When you get the job done and end her, you will notice an administrative unit, Adler, enter the room. He will tell you that you have got the facility at an unfortunate time and asks how he can assist you. You tell him that you're looking for a human, but after looking at the picture of Alina Seo, he pushes you down the elevator shaft to get rid of you. You fall down and probably become unconscious, having a memory dream of Isa Ito, waking up in a classroom in the Mandelbrot Polytechnical High School, located in Rothfront Sector C. It is never explained how these memories bleed into each other, but maybe it is something that Ariane remembered. Isa gets out of the classroom and wanders around the school until she comes across Ariane's class and finds her being bullied by 3 other girls in gas masks. I think this memory is there to showcase how much Ariane felt ostracized in Rothfront, but this isn't where her Rothfront memory ends, though. Now you are in the lower sections of Sherpinski, waking up in an elevator filled with the corpses of Elsters. This part is a little crucial because this isn't the last place you will see your own dead bodies. It makes you realize that this entire loop is playing over and over again. This isn't the first time any of this may have happened. Eventually, you will reach the administrative floors of the mines. These floors house the administrator, the commander, and some higher ranking stars and EULs. The EUs here have nicer bunks to sleep on and have been given mirrors and decorations to stabilize their personas. Stars on these floors have their own rooms because they perform really well in their tasks, which involve shooting things. And then there are the Calibris, who make sure everyone in the facility remains as docile as possible. You will realize that the facility is managed entirely by one Falke unit, and that's because these units are powerful enough to manipulate things from a distance and bend the will of everyone around them. The Falke in this facility has fallen ill because, as her notebook says, she saw something beyond the gates below the mines. She talks about a red eye that poisoned her with the memories of someone else. She's longing to see Ariane, just like we are, and she thinks of it as a curse. The administrator notices this and becomes concerned about her condition, even more so when she becomes bedridden. The sickness has taken over the facility, and more replicas and also Gustavs keep falling ill. Adler is having his workload reduced while also becoming sicker and unable to work properly. He also keeps having visions of an Elster unit who has never been stationed in Sherpinsky, but he feels like he has spoken to her while in the mines. Adler's suspicious activity alerts the STARS units, and they requested one of the Colibris to keep a bioresonant eye on Adler, following his actions. They also came upon the memory of an Elster unit in Adler's mind, but the fact that such a unit was considered but never deployed in Sherpinsky raised their suspicion, and then they started monitoring him even more closely. But because of the strong bioresonance of the Colibri units, their efforts became their own downfall as they started amplifying the spread of the disease once they themselves became sick. Your main goal in this section of the facility is to take the card that is kept inside the shrine box by opening it using a key you can find inside the library. You will also meet a Colibri unit there, who has been severed from the connection of her peers, left to go insane in solitude. When you open the shrine box, you can take the administrator key to the mines. Inside the box, there's also a shrine diary that Adler started using as his own. In the diary, he expresses fear over being stuck in a loop, as all the entries have the same date. He also adds that he doesn't want to be decommissioned. When you take the administrator key and go down in the mines, you will see a separate scene showing Isa stabbing Adler to defend herself as he tries to kill her. Adler drops into a hole in the mines, and then the scene ends with you exiting the elevator. The mine section is not very long, as you just have to find the giant hole that you saw Adler fall into, and then jump down. After a while of walking on the shores of oblivion, you will wake up inside a maze of metal and rust called Nowhere. This area is a very good homage to the Otherworld from Silent Hill, but also holds meaning as a transition point between dreams. You can also see masses of flesh below all the metal gratings, and sometimes you walk on them. It is surreal and difficult to make sense of, but this is where the plate of eternity comes into play. You have to find 5 other plates like it and use them to open the final door. Behind the final door, you are now again below the hole you went down at the beginning. You take the stairs and go up to find the gate again, but this time you have Adler waiting there with a knife in his eye. He asks you about what Falky may have seen past it, but you tell him that it doesn't matter. You walk the red emptiness past all the other Elsters who failed to fulfill the promise, and then come across the Penrose 512 again, the ship you started from. You try opening the gates of the ship, but it breaks your arms instead. You fall down, the game ends with your demise. When you begin the game again, you are in Penrose again, but things are suddenly better. The ship seems to be in perfect state, and you must carry out your inspection as you would as the ship's technician replica. After completing your tasks, you go talk to Ariane in her room. However, she is not interested in the ship, as she wants to celebrate the 3000th cycle anniversary of you being together. She puts on Stanchion by Franz Schubert and dances with you in peace. As you all fall asleep together, the next thing you hear is the warning signs on the ship's computer, and Ariane standing over you asking, "Do you remember our promise? Your suffering isn't over yet, Elster." So you get up in the snowy landscape once again, without your protective clothing, and you walk back into the ship while in pain. You find a note from Ariane describing how she is in immense agony and she wants it all to be over. Her teeth and hair seem to be falling out, and she longs for a sleep. When you walk into the cryo chamber, you find the pod filled with pulsating flesh and a dead Elster unit beside it, wearing armor. She and I become we, because I made a promise. I will do anything to fulfill it. I will compartmentalize my trauma to avoid conflicts, as truth hurts too much, and I will jump down this hole of flesh one more time, because I can't stop now. All this pain can be for nothing. On the shores of oblivion, you can take a walk, read what the dead have to say, but you cannot die, not yet at least, as you take the boat and sail away from the island. But the gate remains. When you come back to Sherpinsky, things feel much different. The facility has decayed much more, but the sequence of the loop remains the same with a few differences. After you take the classroom key, you go to the class and find the floor completely eviscerated while a void stares back at you. You jump down, because of course, and end up in Rothfront Sector C, the place where Ariane came to study. In my opinion, Rothfront is the most personal section in the entire game. You really come to know Ariane and everyone she was living with. This is because Ariane had a strong bioresonance ability and could read into people's minds and intentions. It is like she was recording her block and creating this detailed image you can walk around in. Her life in Rothfront Sector C was still very rough, considering the school was very different from her upbringing. The imperial serials she watched with her mom have been banned in the nation. The art she practices is very regulated and easily frowned upon by the nation and its people who value productivity above all. Isa and Erika Ito do become friends with Ariane because Isa's parents sell banned imperial books in their stores, which is illegal. This aspect of their store becomes suspicious as the imperial spy in the area puts all colibris on high alert. Most of the items in Ariane's own store get seized, leaving the shelves empty, even as she notified the colibris how the key was with Ariane and she was hospitalized. One of the actual spies, however, is trying to run off from the sector, as we can read his message to others from the note he left in a locker. You are not the only one searching for someone in Rodfront, though. When you enter Isa's home, you will find her inside, standing near the pictures of her and her sister. She tells you how she cannot go on after being unable to find her sister anywhere, and she isn't there anymore. After losing her only reason to keep going, she succumbs to the illness and fades away. You will not have difficulties finding the other cards and opening the wall afterwards. If you enter the phases of the moon on this wall correctly, the hole in the center opens up to Ariane's room. The seals on the tome of the king in yellow are now broken. You can pick it up again. If you do, the door in the room unlocks and you can enter nowhere to fight with the last thing standing between you and Ariane. Falke is strong. She will not go down that easily. But if you do defeat her, you can fulfill your promise. So you do. and she finally tells you that now both of you are one. Now that you can finally glimpse into the memory of what really happened to Ariane, you get to know that the ship finally crossed the time period of their mission, and they failed to find a habitable planet. You would think that the nation of Yuuzhan would do something to recall them, but they just ordered Ariane to give up and die. They told her to ask Elster to kill her and end everything, but Ariane refused to tell Elster anything. She knew that they would soon start getting poisoned by radiation, and they did. Ariane slowly started losing her hair and teeth, and she started bleeding and getting sick. Elster's blood is made of oxidants, so she started dying even faster. But they still persisted and kept living till the cycle 5000. Ariane was suffering from insomnia because of the radiation, but she still cared for Elster and kept wondering if she was treating her well, as she might lose her any second. Eventually, she was probably kept in the cryo chamber, but Elster eventually decayed and couldn't rid Ariane of her suffering. That was the promise. Signalis has three endings, four if you combine the secret ending. But to me, there is only one true ending. It is when Elster walks in the cryo chamber, finds Ariane, and wakes her up. Ariane asks Elster if she remembers her promise. Elster refrains out of love. But with some insistence. She eventually chokes Ariane out. Elster passes out beside the cryopod and eventually dies from her wounds. Chapter 3: Emotions. When I first played Signalis, I interpreted it as a political allegory. Yes, there is politics hidden in the game, but that's not exactly its core focus. The main emphasis of Signalis is undoubtedly the emotions that flow under fascist rule, where people, whether manufactured or born, are treated as mere commodities to be utilized and discarded. Humans are given barely everything they need to survive if they work, but they lack substantial freedom and are also taught to steer clear of art. This is one of the reasons why Ariane yearned for an escape from it all, finding it in the Penrose 512, catapulted to the furthest reaches of space. She's away from Rothfront, but it doesn't take long for her to realize that the ship itself is a type of prison. Every replica is susceptible to human emotion, but because they are mass produced, they are treated as mere commodities by the state. High ranking replicas, though, are taught to be violent and capable of eliminating people without any remorse. They are made from the neural patterns of exemplary members of the society or extremely well performing war veterans. So they do carry some human flaws in them, such as PTSD. But the most common flaw is them recognizing their individuality and then refusing to participate in collective actions that require them to sacrifice their individuality. In such cases where replicas lose their operational efficiency because of persona degradation, decommissioning them is often recommended by Aeon. Decommissioning in the replica world is euphemistically referred to as shooting them in the head. This is the most commonly used method of decommissioning. Hence, you can only imagine how frightened these manufactured beings are of losing their lives. The most obvious aspect about replicas is that they exhibit similar personalities when they are freshly produced from a factory. They have a stable persona and they must maintain it to ensure that they don't lose their productivity. Most Falke commanders and gestalts knows what does and does not sway a replica's persona away from their factory behavior patterns. If any discrepancies are noticed, they are relieved from their duties through death. They can always be recycled and remanufactured to revert to their original state. They can always be replaced. Humans do enjoy some privileges over basic replicas, yet they still do not enjoy much freedom. Rations are distributed using cards that you can earn by working for the state. The boxes appear sober, devoid of any creative energy, displaying only letters and numbers. I loathe advertisements because they are intrusive, but when things are so devoid of creativity, it induces an uncanny vibe. The only creativity you will see around the world of Signalis is in the propaganda posters of the nation, advertising war machines and bloodlust as motivation to keep working. After all, you will be serving the great nation of Yuuzhan that supposedly cares about you, right? I don't know if it's terrifying or cathartic to see the order of this world being destroyed in such a way. After all, it does not come with any happy endings. It is the contrast between the organized sections of this world and the sections that have been devastated by the sickness that makes you realize how fragile this entire system is. Speech in this world is highly regulated too, which I don't mind if it's hate speech. But the consequences in the world of Signalis stretch far beyond what would be considered acceptable in our world. It feels wrong to see people being tortured and killed brutally, using tools just because they used a radio illegally or were somewhere they should not be. Torture as a punishment or an interrogation technique is highly debated subject in the world. And yes, my country's police do use it to get information out of people. I do not like it, in all honesty. This world feels too clean, yet transformed into a mess, with order being destroyed and shapes turning into meaninglessness. Sherpinski conveys a mood of order, but at the cost of individuality and personality. Most humans in this facility are allowed nothing but small bunk beds to sleep on, with cages on them for protection or perhaps to keep them caged. The story of Signalis may seem the most disorienting thing ever, but it has aspects that are fairly grounded in reality that makes empathy possible. It talks about human issues, mental illnesses, PTSD, and war politics, which we all are too familiar with. Most science fiction stories follow the invention of an extraordinary technology that humans aren't prepared for. And that technology exists here in the metaphor of bioresonance, as it allows manipulation of the physical world using your mental capabilities. But it also discusses an eldritch horror lurking beneath the planet of Leng that was discovered by the miners in Sherpinski. Chapter 4 V. Now, I think I will try to make some sense of the journey of Elster, as I see it in my head at least. Elster in the beginning is detached from us. She is just another replica trying to find her gestalt. I did not really feel connected to her at all until the hospital wing. It is only after seeing how disconnected Elster is from the things going on around her that I connected with her struggle the most. In all honesty, she does not even care about the illness plaguing the facility, the pulsating flesh in the kitchen rooms. Her tunnel vision focus is on finding Ariane or Alina. It is the only thing that keeps her going. At first, I assumed it was just codes that forced her into searching for Ariane, as I did not know the nature of replicas in the world of Signalis. But the dream flashbacks, giving you figments of Ariane's life, feels like memories to hang on to. They feel like half-remembered stories that may have been told to Elster by Ariane when they were on their mission. We can confidently say that Ariane is the addiction of Elster. She is mentally dependent on her, and their memory is her driving force, so powerful that it blinds her to everything else that happens around her. I have felt that driving force too, for people and for substances. It is like you want something or someone so bad that you're willing to do everything to have them around you, even if it hurts you and them. You really think that getting these people will make you whole again? Maybe because you don't love yourself enough, or at all. So it is a sign in the beginning that maybe all the Elsters searching for Ariane are just having a personality degradation, where they remember the mission they had together and died in. They just remember that they made a promise to Ariane, and they have to fulfill it no matter what. Regarding how they come to land on Sherpinski, Adler's alternate diary, found in the dream before the fight with Falke, states that an Elster was called to work in the mines of Sherpinski, but the shipment kept getting delayed. The Elsters you see filling up the elevator are just the same Elster, dying again and again, because her and Adler are stuck in a loop. That happens until the cup is filled to the brim and the impact cannot hurt Elster anymore. It seems like a metaphor for the memory of Elster in Falky's head, having had enough. It is almost like the memory of Elster was so weak in front of the will of Falky that it took an undescribed number of trials to pass through the cycle. Adler often describes them as being stuck in a loop of reality breaking down. Bioresonance is often described as a hive mind, but this hive mind is making everyone stuck in the cycle to become chunks of flesh and then combine. This degradation of shape can also be a metaphor for Ariane's cancer due to radiation. The chunks of flesh you see symbolize tumors that she acquired from being stuck for years in her irradiated ship, half dead in the cryo chamber. Elster's original neural pattern came from Anna Huang or Lilith Ito. Regardless of the name, we are sure of the face when she has a flashback during her walk through the red emptiness. Anna Huang's name is mentioned on the safe that opens using a pareidolia puzzle. Huang has two meanings in Chinese. One means yellow and the other means king. Anna Huang's name strikes me more as a metaphor, reminding us of the king in yellow, rather than being proof of her being Elster's gestalt. I do think Lilith Ito is the actual gestalt from which Elster was made. Sometime during the period between Ariane's journey and the events of Sierpinski, the original neural pattern for Elster was lost, and so they had to replace it with another Elster model, making clones out of clones. The name of this model was LSTR 512, which makes you wonder if it was the same Elster in Penrose. But how did Aeon find the ship if it crossed the Ood cloud? But enough about looking at the story literally. Let's explore the emotional value of Elster Pursuit and what that represents to me before I end this video for good and free us all from this prison. Elster's addiction was Ariane, and vice versa for Ariane too. That is the reason why Ariane refrained from telling Elster that the ship has started degrading and that they will never get back to civilization, even though the command paper specifically instructed her to keep interactions to the minimum with Elster. If Ariane had asked Elster for help in assisted suicide, things could have ended peacefully for her. She would not have suffered until the nth cycle with radiation. But Elster was too much in love to kill her, and Ariane was too in love to ask. I think the promise came somewhere after the 5000 cycle, when both of them were too far gone to be saved in any possible scenario. But before Elster could fulfill her promise, she perished to cancer and radiation sickness. I can only imagine the guilt she might feel after seeing her own corpse lying in the corner in her dreams. The relationship between Alina and Lilith is something I would love to talk about, but everything I know about Alina is that she used to be a soldier in Veneta, serving with Lilith Ito, the possible gestalt of Elster. Ariane did see a picture of Alina in the photo store belonging to her aunt, and she possibly took it. She thought Alina looked a lot like her, And I feel it is just a coincidence that she ends up falling in love with a replica that is made from Alina's lover. But Elster did end up confusing both their memories, and it is debated what happened to Alina at the end. Either all the memories of Alina that Elster finds are fake, placed by Ariane, or she was there in Sherpinski out of sheer coincidence. It could also be that Elster confused her previous human life with her current one and was searching for Alina because they were lovers. When Elster starts descending the floors of Sherpinski, it tells me about going deeper and deeper into a hole you can never escape from. It is a hole filled with insanity, violence, and death. But all of them are just hurdles, standing between you and the promise. Whenever Elster goes unconscious, she has the dream of the Isle of the Dead. It feels like she comes so close to death. She walks those sands that bury the skulls of those who have come before you. But she cannot become one of them, not until she fulfills the promise. To me, the rest of the characters don't hold much significance between me and the promise. And why should they? For Elster, her mind is in the pursuit of the thing that completes her. Ariane, she does not have the time to worry about illnesses, deaths, and empathy when all she needs is to finish this pursuit and go home. This is the core of my empathy for Elster. As I stated earlier, it is a feeling I know all too well. Nowhere to me signifies a transition point between the realistic dreams of Sherpinski, the place where you are stuck as you are in the memories of Falky, and then Rothfront, the memories of Ariane. Nowhere is where one shape decays and becomes another, and the gate is the exact point where one dream decays and becomes another. All the flashbacks you see in the radio station, in the train, in the classroom, Rothfront, and even in Penrose 512, dancing with Ariane, are just lures driving you to end the suffering of Ariane, because it is inhumane not to. After the life Ariane has lived, does she really deserve to suffer from radiation poisoning, half frozen, alone in cold space, or crashed on red emptiness? Definitely not. I don't think Elster realizes that Ariane's suffering, ongoing or not, amplifies Elster's suffering and the suffering of people who slowly become her, including Falky. And by freeing Ariane of her pain, she will be freeing herself too. This is why the promise ending means the most to me. It is the logical end to it all, even if it doesn't end the loop canonically. By killing Ariane, I'm freeing myself too. It does not matter if I die beside her. Even that is peace after knowing everything about her tragic situation. If I kill her, I end the loop for me, as I am ending her story myself, as she wanted. I am fulfilling our final promise and ending it all. The tunnel vision focus Elster displays is a testament to the love she felt for Ariane, where nothing else seemed to matter at all. In the mind of Elster, Ariane is like a goddess, the purest, an artist, a dreamer, a guide. And now that Falky is starting to confuse her memories with Elster, it only elevates Ariane to an even godlier status. Ariane has a connection to the thing that they found in the mines, And that thing allows Ariane to bend the will of the most powerful bioresonant being in this world. This also suggests that Ariane cannot really be killed if she's so powerful. The last fight with Falke is a moment of reflection as Falke says, "Now we have become one," as she dies. This phrase meant quite literally to me, as she was seeking Ariane, but Ariane won't accept anyone who is not Elster. I also remember the memory ending, where Ariane refuses to remember us, and we succumb to our wounds. You only get the memory ending when you haven't taken enough damage in the game. So it basically explains that you need to suffer for Ariane to accept you. If you haven't suffered enough, you are just not good enough for her to trust. You are not her Elster. Wherever she is destined to suffer forever, waiting for the loop to begin again. And when it does, Elster will suffer again. There is nothing but heartbreak at the end. There is so much more I want to say, but this video has been too long. Maybe in the future, I will approach this game differently, with a different perspective. But for now, I'm free. Bye.